I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation, the disappearance of 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard, a girl who went on a road trip with mom but never came home. Here's the story. 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard vanished without a trace after leaving California with her mother, Ashlee. What began as a quiet road trip from Santa Barbara County turned into a mystery that has gripped the nation. Investigators say Ashlee rented a car and drove halfway across the country to Nebraska. But somewhere along the way, Melodee disappeared. Days later, Ashlee was back home alone, and now she's refusing to cooperate. Detectives are retracing every mile of that haunting drive, collecting surveillance footage, questioning witnesses who saw the pair together before Melodee was gone. Search teams are scouring highways, fields, and rest stops for any sign of the missing 9-year-old. What happened on that cross-country journey, and why won't her mother help find her own child? And when they took that cross-country trip, Ashlee Buzzard rented a car. It wasn't her personal vehicle, it was a rental. And in this case, if a crime was committed, that rental car could be a crime scene. Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas, looking into the story for us. Cody, what do we know about that rental car?
Well, Vinny, of course, we know it was a white 2024 Chevy Malibu rented on October 7th before embarking on that multi-state road trip. But Vinny, let's take a look right here, this video right here. This is video of Ashlee and Melodee at the rental agency the day they rented the car. You see Ashlee there on the right and Melodee there on the left. Now, in this video, investigators believe that both Ashlee and Melodee were wearing disguises, specifically wigs. And Melodee's sitting there looking darker under that hood. But Vinny, what we have new tonight, new images of the actual car Ashlee Buzzard was driving on this trip. You see the white Chevy Malibu right there. These are new images that we're presenting to our viewers tonight. Now, when they rented that car on October 7th, when they left in that car, it had a California license plate on it. But investigators say the next day on October 8th, that same car was seen with a New York plate on it. Now, it's unknown when this New York plate was put on or if any other plates were put on this car during this multi-state trip across the country from California to Nebraska and back, but they believe they put the New York plate on to try to deceive police or in some form of deception. Now, that same car was returned on October 10th with the original California plate put back on it, but of course we know with no Melodee. Now, October 10th, Vinny, that's when the car comes back. That's when it gets back to Lompoc, California. Now, days later, almost 3 weeks later, on October 30th, a search warrant was finally officially executed on that car on the same day, along with Ashlee's home and a storage locker that was under her name. We see some of the investigators right there at the home. Now, what was found during those searches has not been revealed just yet, but those search warrants were executed on the same day, Vinny. But almost 3 weeks later, from when she gets back on October 10th, it's real bizarre because we don't have many answers in this story right now.
Yeah, you're talking about a delay here, a delay in perhaps searching what could be potentially a crime scene in all this. Cody, thanks so much. And this brings us to the first question in our investigation this hour, and it's about the rental car. Why? Why did Ashlee Buzzard rent the car? Why did she have to go rent a car? And what was the purpose in this? And really, what's the purpose in the trip in and of itself? Here to help answer that question, Scripps News Group reporter who's been on this case since the beginning, Crystal Bermudez. And also joining us tonight, Utah private investigator Jason Jensen. Jason, I want to start with you. Those photos of the rental car we got from you. Number one, thank you very much. Number two, give us the backstory on where these pictures were taken, what the pictures are of, and your thoughts about the significance of them.
Sure, thanks, Benny. Yeah, I dug up these images from a license plate reader program that private investigators have access to. It's primarily used in doing repossession work. That's why the images are there, but the information is shared with private investigators who use them for fugitive recovery and other forms of investigation, such as this, where you're trying to track down where a vehicle goes throughout your community or across, state lines.
And what is the timing of these photos? Give me a little more background about these particular photos.
Sure. 2 of these images were taken of the car prior to Melodee Buzzard's rent of the vehicle, and 2 of them thereafter. And the significance is so that viewers, anyone in the public, can see the actual car and see if it sparks a memory for them when they saw the car. As you can see, there's no unique stripes or even damage to the vehicle that would make it stand out uniquely in a different way. But because we get to see it, it's a lot easier to have a visual of it. And then the only thing that would be changed would be when there was the New York plates on it. But I looked up specifically this vehicle from the California plate number, and there is a gap of time that it was rented that there was no California plates sightings of this car.
All right, Crystal Bermudez, I want to put some video up from you. You were at Ashlee's house when Ashlee pulled up in a vehicle. I want to take a look at that. And that's the vehicle. So do we know, Crystal, whether or not she owns a vehicle, has access to a vehicle? Was she driving this vehicle with that scratch in it? Do we know the story behind that? Because I'm trying to figure out why she was adamant about renting a car here.
Yeah, Vinny. So from my understanding, even speaking with neighbors, Ashlee is known for renting cars. And if she doesn't have a car rental, she is getting Ubers. So the images you're seeing of the vehicle right there on your screen right now, that's when I was staking outside of the house on October 15th is when I first started reporting on Melodee's whereabouts. This vehicle was parked right outside her garage, and I was there for some hours, and there was one moment she stepped out, got in this vehicle, went to maybe run some errands, but when she returned with a large yellow scratch on the side of the car, as you can see right there. And there's no telling where that scratch came from, but it did leave quite the dent and mark that was really visible. I mean, I remember just sitting across my news car across the street and wondering, was that actually there before this morning? I didn't recall. But again, she did have this car rental there at her property on October 15th. And just, I want to say either a day or two later, she no longer had a car.
Is that a rental also then? We believe that's a rental car also?
So I didn't see the rental agency take that car specifically, but neighbors in the area on that avenue did tell me that someone from a car rental agency came, picked the car up, and then that's when she gets dropped off. And that's pretty much the routine she has. She rents cars, the rental agency comes to pick it up, and then they drop her back off home.
Fascinating. All right, so Jason Jensen, this is someone who doesn't own a vehicle, so if she's going to go on a road trip, she's got to rent one. The search 3 weeks later, Jason, what are your thoughts about what, if any, sort of evidence could be gathered from a rental vehicle at that point?
Well, certainly if they expect foul play, they would certainly look for DNA evidence in the car, see if there's any body fluid evidence in there, show that somebody was deceased. But more significantly, I would be interested in searching the undercarriage for soil samples to get an idea where this vehicle may have traveled to, if it was off the beaten path somewhere, to get an idea where, geographically to look for Melodee at.
And Jason, we know she passed through, not your literal backyard, but your backyard in Utah, southern Utah, northern Arizona, that area up through Colorado. From your perspective, do you think they'll be able to tell if, in fact, she's going off-road somewhere, or different insects or vegetation from those areas, even though they're relatively close to each other?
Typically, you can. I mean, we know for a fact that there's white dunes, there's red soil in the Moab region, and gray if you go up north past Green River. So you can get a good idea where a car may have gone off the beaten path in my neck of the woods.
Let me ask you, Crystal, has the rental car agency, what other information do we have about her and relative to this rental? About when it was returned and how it was returned. Was this another one where we believe they came to pick it up, or did she drop it off? How do we know the coordination on how that went, and whether or not any of those folks at the agency may have seen or not seen Melodee?
And just to be clear, this is about the white Chevy Malibu?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So I did ask, I reached out to the local car rental agency in the area just to see if they could provide any additional details or things that they noticed when that car was returned. Unfortunately, they were unable to provide a comment as this was an ongoing investigation. But I also went as far as asking investigators on the case as well if they could even give us the timeline of when the car made it back to that, made it back on the return trip, but specifically returned back to the car rental agency. Unfortunately, they were unable to also provide that detail as well. That came to mind for me. I thought it was very soon to see another car rental parked outside of her garage just some days after this trip just had just occurred.
And Jason Jensen, that's sort of the theme here, is that very few details from investigators. Some cryptic details, like when she's spotted and the timeline of it. If there's an active search for a 9-year-old girl, it just seems it would be more helpful if the public could be kind of steered in a direction. Hey, in this city at this time, did anyone see something? But that's not happening here.
Oh, exactly. And that's why I dug deep to get visuals of this vehicle to help the public get involved, because to me, I felt like it was slow getting information out for public, awareness and for the public at large to help, because the information isn't coming in. Time is of the essence when it's a missing person, especially when it's a child involved.
Let me ask you, Jason, in your search from the license plate readers, would there be instances where there are images that exist from those same types of cameras that you're searching for, of when Melodee and Ashlee, or just Ashlee, is in the car? And if so, did you come across any of those images?
Nothing during the time window at issue here. There was the week before and the week after. And I believe it had to do with the fact that when she took her route to Nebraska, she went off the beaten path anyway. She took the scenic byway rather than remained on I-15 and I-70 when she was crossing over. She went through Panguitch and up through Junction, which is, a slower route to travel.
All right, Jason Jensen, we appreciate your help tonight. Crystal's going to stay with us. Coming up next, how important is Tyler Brewer in this investigation?
We're entering a not guilty plea. She refutes the allegations that have been brought against her.
The disappearance of mother Anna Walsh.
Her husband now charged with her murder.
All eyes on this accused killer.
Mr. Walsh was suspecting his wife of having an affair.
The massive trail of evidence.
This incredible timeline of Google searches.
It shows everything that was in his mind.
He searched how long before a body starts to smell.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh murder trial. Live coverage begins December 1st on Court TV.
Ashlee, can you tell us where Melodee is? Ashlee, is Melodee okay? Do you have any comment?
Melodee.
Is she in Utah? Ashlee, do you have any comment? Can you tell us where Melodee is?
This is some video from News Nation showing Ashlee Buzzard leaving jail, a free woman, after she was charged with felony false imprisonment. She was given an ankle monitor and was able to leave and go home. Let's check back in with Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas for more on this part of this story. Okay, so what do we know about the man who is accusing Ashlee Buzzard of false imprisonment?
Well, Vinny, his name is Tyler Brewer, and he's this local paralegal out there in California where they live. And he's told local media outlets that he's known Ashlee Buzzard for years, and he reached out to her, he contacted her to see if he can assist in the missing persons investigation into her daughter, Melodee Buzzard. Now, Brewer says on November 6th, he was visiting Ashlee at her home, and then something happened, and Ashlee wouldn't let him leave. He was held against his will, and we now know, again, that she was arrested and charged with false imprisonment the next day. But Brewer put out a statement on social media related to what happened, and he said, quote, "When Melodee was reported missing, I contacted Ashlee Buzzard solely to offer assistance in locating a missing child. I am a legal document assistant, process server, mandated reporter, and perceived officer of the court. In that capacity, I immediately reported all concerning communication and inconsistencies directly to law enforcement. On November 6th, during an interaction at her residence, the situation escalated. Miss Buzzard became visibly distressed after sharing information she appeared to regret disclosing. A box cutter was produced, and despite multiple requests to be allowed to exit the home, I was not immediately permitted to leave. The door was secured by several locks, which delayed my ability to exit. This incident was reported to law enforcement." And Vinny, something else to note about Tyler Brewer, he also alleges that Ashlee disclosed to him where she dropped Melodee off on that return trip back to Lompoc, California. Now, no confirmation on that as of now, but we do know, of course, that Ashlee has pleaded not guilty to those felony false imprisonment charges, and again, she is currently out on bail under supervision.
Thanks, Cody. What a twist in all this, right? And that brings us to the next question in our investigation. And it's about Tyler. How important is Tyler Brewer in this investigation into finding out where Melodee is and what's happening here with Ashlee? Still here, helping us with our investigation, Scripps News Group reporter Crystal Bermudez, and joining us, private investigator Lauren Vellucci. Lauren, your thoughts. How important is this man, Tyler Brewer, to finding out what happened here?
Vinny, I would be shocked, honestly, if she were to have told him some kind of pertinent information that the law enforcement didn't have already. I think in the regards of him being helpful and useful, I think that he was, in the sense that they didn't have a whole lot to get her into custody. And I think that him providing this, going there, and that incident taking place, I think it did help them, because I think, if I had to guess, and I have a strong suspicion that they wanted to try things when she was in custody to see if they could get things out of her, or maybe even have a Perkins operation going on in the jail cell to see that if they could get some kind of something out of her, kind of similar to the Jake Haro case. So I think in that regards, he was helpful. I would just be shocked if in her paranoia and mental state, she told him something that is going to crack this case.
Crystal, what struck me here is that we've been watching all your reporting. You've spent so many hours and days out in front of that house, seeing people coming and going. I mean, it seems she kind of shuts the door or doesn't answer the door when most people show up. But this guy got in. What do we know about their relationship?
Yeah, Vinny, well, in my days that I was in the area, I unfortunately never had the opportunity to see Tyler actually go into the residence himself, but neighbors were questioning it. They saw him repeatedly going in and out of her home. One neighbor even told me that he parked down the block and then would walk into the entrance of her home, and he was allowed in. As far as what was discussed, we only know as much as he has shared about that conversation. But I did go and I went and asked Lori Miranda, who is Ashlee Buzzard's mother, exactly if she knew anything about this friendship, how they knew each other. She told me that she did remember back in the day that Tyler was someone that Ashlee did hung around with. She referenced him as the attorney friend, but we do know he's a paralegal, as he claims. But she was a bit confused that he was there in the first place. But as far as, you know, how how long this friendship has been. Has it been a nurtured friendship and things like that? Those details I don't know, but it seems like he has been around for quite some time and does know Ashlee to some extent.
Yeah, Lauren, this is the only person who seems to get past that front door and at least have some sort of interaction. So I'm wondering, at a minimum, if he's able to perhaps provide some context to investigators about the Ashlee that he's known for years versus the Ashlee who he was in the house with a missing daughter, to try to ascertain like where she is. To me, that might be significant.
Sure, because he's obviously known her for years, so he would have insight into her personality, her ways of speaking and doing things, and even the mother that she was. So absolutely, they can ascertain certain things, I think, from him, and to what her state is now, which would give them insight into possibly how to go about things with her.
Crystal, has anyone else been able to get past that front door that we know?
Other than delivery people, there are some people that said like Walmart made deliveries and things like that. So she is a little attentive to those packages that do come through her door. Sometimes they do sit out there for some hours, but from my understanding, anyone else that has gone inside, not really to my knowledge. We've even seen CPS try to make contact, to other law enforcement agencies trying to make contact, and there were times I've witnessed her not acknowledge or open the door when they made those home visits.
Unbelievable. But if she doesn't have a car, I guess everything's got to be delivered, whether it's food or anything else, unless people are helping you out. All right, Lauren Vellucci, thank you so much. Great to see you. Crystal's going to stick around. Still to come, why is law enforcement convinced Melodee didn't return home? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the disappearance of 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard, a little girl being raised by a single mother, Ashlee Buzzard, who won't tell anyone where her daughter is. Here's the story. From California to the plains of Nebraska, the disappearance of 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard has become a race against time. Her mother, Ashlee, was supposed to bring her daughter home safely, but now she's at the center of a baffling mystery. Authorities say Ashlee rented a car, drove east, and returned alone. When investigators pressed her for answers, she grew evasive, declining interviews, dodging questions, and offering no explanation for her daughter's vanishing. The silence has only deepened suspicion. Detectives are following digital trails, vehicle logs, and tips pouring in from across state lines. Meanwhile, communities from California to Nebraska pray for answers and cling to hope. Did something happen on the road, or is Ashlee hiding the truth about what really happened to her daughter, Melodee? This road trip makes the investigation and the search for Melodee so much more difficult because of all the miles and all the potential places that Ashlee could have gone and where Melodee could be. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, what do we know about the route that Ashlee took when she rented the white Malibu?
Well, Vinnie, we know now that investigators have singled in on this 24-hour window where they say Melodee was last seen, where they believe Melodee was last seen, and it focuses in near the Colorado-Utah border. And we have video, you see them there, that's them renting the car on October 7th before they embarked on this trip. But Vinnie, we also have a map showing the possible return trip from Colorado back to Lompoc, California. Now, we've pointed out a starting point of Grand Junction, Colorado, although investigators haven't said exactly that this is where Melodee was spotted or wherever she was spotted even. It's believed that Ashlee drove west on I-70, but she may have diverted south at one point on Route 89, going through some small towns, including Junction, Utah, not to be confused with Grand Junction, Colorado. Now, she then may have gotten back onto I-70 and continued on, going through St. George, Utah, going through Las Vegas, Nevada, and then on into California. Now, Vinnie, according to Google Maps, that's 917 miles of driving. And also, according to Google Maps, it would take around 13.5 hours to make that drive nonstop, which leaves open several questions. Did she have time to do something to Melodee, to do something harmful, and then, unfortunately dispose of her body? Also stop and get gas. Did she have time to stop and use the bathroom, get something to eat? These are answers that we're still searching for. But Vinnie, let's take a listen to the spokesperson for the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office talking about that return trip.
So we're generally focusing on, it's a pretty direct route from Lompoc all the way out to Nebraska, but we are making a point to emphasize that on the return trip that she did take what appears to be a bit of a detour down into Kansas and then back up along the regular route to return home. We don't know where along that route Melodee was or is, and that's really our area of focus.
And again, Vinnie, we now know that the Nebraska area is no longer the focus. It's focused on that Colorado-Utah border. But Vinnie, the truth is, at this point in time, Melodee could still virtually be anywhere.
Absolutely. That's the mystery here. There's some cryptic information coming from law enforcement, which is interesting. But they are convinced of one thing, and that brings us to the next question in our investigation. Why is law enforcement convinced that Melodee didn't return home? Right? They're saying that Ashlee came home without Melodee. How do they know that? And based upon what? What is the information that they're using to come to that conclusion? Here to help us work through all this is California licensed private investigator Bill Garcia. Bill has joined the search for Melodee Buzzard, and missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher. He's also a search and rescue pilot and ground search technician. Thank you both for being here. Bill, what are your thoughts here about whether or not Melodee returned home, returned to California, and perhaps returned even to Lompoc, and why do you think law enforcement is convinced that she didn't?
Well, obviously, we don't have the information that law enforcement has. There's a lot of digital tracking that was able to be done. And the most unusual part was the fact that Ashlee diverted off of an interstate, which would have added time and distance to the route. And the time factor for that distance just would not have allowed her to spend any amount of time along that route. But at the same time, the tracking unit on the vehicle should have been able to show travel time, stop time, extended stopping areas along that route, but we don't have that type of information. I'm hoping that the GPS unit that was in the vehicle would allow a continuous track of the vehicle. But again, we have to go with what we know and what's been disseminated by law enforcement.
Steve, it seems that investigators have been very cryptic in what information they have divulged. But it's a case where there's a 9-year-old missing and they don't know where she is. And obviously, if you know certain places at certain times that they could have been, I would think you'd want the public to know that.
You would sure think so. It doesn't even seem like local law enforcement in the areas even know. I don't, they did narrow it down to that, border area in Utah and Colorado. But I don't understand why they're not being more forthcoming. It's been a long time now. They need eyeballs out there, and they got to get information out. I mean, do they have any high-res imagery, of her at near that border? Do they have any sense of, listen, they had to go through the Prim, Nevada agriculture border station. Even if they didn't stop them there's going to be high-res imagery where you can see in the vehicle from that station. Was she captured there? Was Melodee in the car? They got to get this out there so they can narrow down and get people out there actually, looking and spreading the word and intensify in those specific areas. This is crazy, just holding the information so tight like this.
Yeah, I get the feeling that the public isn't very well aware of this particular case. especially even in the areas where they may have traveled through, where people, you know, these are small towns. People are going to notice things, but they may not even know that they have important information. Bill, let me ask you, do you think there's any chance that Melodee could have returned to California, could have returned to Lompoc?
I do believe that is possible. Whether she would be alive or not, that's the big question. That's a long trip for a young child to take. And I could see her getting antsy. I could see her sleeping on large portions of the trip, which would have caused her to not show up on a camera at a certain location. And as Steve was saying, there are cameras along good parts of that route, especially at that agriculture station as you enter into California. So you would think that the child would be seen. You know, she is not that tall, so it's a possibility that depending on the angle of the camera, that might have been difficult. If she was laying on the seat, then you wouldn't be able to see her. So I believe that there is a high probability that she may have made it back all the way to Ventura, and that's based on everything as a whole, as opposed to just seeing her at the Colorado-Utah border.
Steve, what does your gut tell you about where the break will come in this case that will lead to the answer here?
You know, I'm hoping, you know, personally, I do think that there's a chance that, a good chance that she's alive. And I think it's you know, this was the last thing that Ashlee had, and she wasn't going to lose her at any cost. And what I hope the break is that if somebody maybe also, you know, is having mental health issues and connected with Ashlee and they felt there was this conspiracy, maybe they have a moment of clarity if they're holding her and say, okay, I've got to give this up. I can't keep holding her. And I hope that kind of is the break. I don't think that Ashlee is going to have a moment of clarity.
Bill, Ashlee's not speaking, but the whole neighborhood seems very concerned about this case. Have you learned anything from many of the neighbors?
There's been a couple of neighbors that have paid attention over time and have made comments about the odd behavior of Ashlee. It's almost as if Ashlee was keeping her child confined to the home. There was periods where Ashlee would exit the front of the house and would lock the screen door, the deadbolt, just to go to the garage and back with the child inside the house. So I believe that Ashlee, you know, this was Ashlee's only family, or Melodee was the only family member that she had. She had pretty much gone away from the rest of the family, and the mental health issue is a question here. And there were some moments there after Ashlee returned where she showed some emotion, which has not been seen very often during this long surveillance period of her in the home. So it's a high probability that she would have brought her all the way home, but where is she? And is she okay?
Big thanks, Bill Garcia, Steve Fisher. Great to have you on the show. We appreciate your help and your insight. Up next, why did Ashlee Buzzard cut off communication with her family?
We love you. We're here for you.
You have to punish him? You have to kill him for a few $100?
You don't touch fire and expect not to get burned. My goal is to embarrass you. My goal is to make you suffer. My goal is for pain. Make sure that you remember me for the rest of your life.
You weren't feeling any sympathy?
If I'm being honest now.
You kill a man for acting like a junkie when you're the one turned him into a junkie.
Interview with a Killer season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Sheriff calls me. He says, I'm at your daughter's house in Orchid, and I was just getting ready to take your granddaughter Melodee with me to CPS because we're getting ready to take your daughter to the hospital. The house was in disarray. There were raw eggs in pans. There was rotten food in the fridge that I think she was trying to give my granddaughter.
So there is some level of a history here of problems with Ashlee and Melodee and Ashlee's ability to kind of keep things in order and do the appropriate things in raising Melodee. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, what do we know about any sort of custody history in this case?
Well, Vinny, it's kind of a slippery slope because there was a period of time where Melodee's mother, Ashlee, was actually checked in to a mental hospital. Now, Melodee's paternal grandmother spoke with Fox News talking about how Ashlee kept Melodee away from everyone. It says, quote, in an interview with Fox News Digital, Melodee's paternal grandmother, Lily Deans, said social services contacted her while Ashlee was in a mental hospital and asked if she would take in Melodee to avoid foster care. Deans did and started the adoption process, but said that in 2021, Ashlee took her away from us after picking her up from school following her release from the mental hospital. We were so happy when social services called us and told us that they were gonna place the baby with us. You know, we were so happy, Dean said. That lady is mentally ill bad. Since then, the grandmother said she hasn't been allowed to see Melodee, adding that Ashlee cut the girl off from the entire world. Dean said Ashlee cut off Melodee from her entire family. And Vinny, let's take a listen to that same grandmother talking about remembrance of her son. That will be Melodee's biological father, who's no longer with us, and her keeping hope alive for Melodee's return.
This is my baby boy. And he's gone, and she was just a baby, but here, I took this picture at the hospital. I walking in, and he said, Mom, wait, Mom. I know your daddy's watching you from heaven. I love you, baby.
And Vinny, this is that photo that Melodee's grandmother was holding there during that emotional story. And Vinny, you know, with all of this going on, with all of Ashlee's lack of cooperation, the question still remains, where is this little girl?
Yeah, it's puzzling, it's mysterious, but it's also sad and tragic all at the same time. Cody Thomas, thank you for your help tonight. Let's get to our final question in our investigation, which is, why did Ashlee Buzzard cut off communication with her family? Why would you do that? You're a single mom. A lot of times single moms want to reach out and get help, right? I've got to run here. Can you help out? Can you help out? Right? Here to help with our investigation, Scripps News Group reporter Crystal Bermudez, covering the story from the beginning. Also with us, psychotherapist, CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey. All right, Crystal, from your investigation, your reporting, what have you learned about why Ashlee was isolating, why she was cutting her family off?
Yeah, Vinny, I just want to share this past last week, last Thursday after her hearing, I met with her mother, Lori Miranda, and Lori shared with me a number of photos and videos from the year of 2018 up until 2023. And in those videos that she shared with me, she captured moments where Ashlee was playing with her daughter, both daughters, when she had both of them at the same time. So it was very strange to see that over a progression of years that she had this family behind her, you know, the support of her mom, her oldest daughter as well. And then suddenly it just ended up being her and Melodee, just them two, pretty much against the world at this point. As far as Lily Dennis, the paternal grandmother, when I spoke to her after court, she also recounted to me times when she used to help Ashlee financially. If she came by the house and needed money for whether it was car expenses or anything for the baby, that she was quick to give her any money and assist her in those instances, because that was ultimately at some point someone who her son was with, Rubiel Meza, and was the mother of his child. So she was always, from my understanding, always quick to help her financially in that regard too. So it's a big question as to why she decided to just cut everyone off.
Yeah, if there's a grandchild involved, grandparents will help. Trust me, I know. Dr. Janie Lacey, why would someone isolate like this? Why would you do that? Why would you take this child away from grandparents and aunts and uncles and siblings and just take her away from the world?
Well, you said it earlier, Vinny. I mean, it's a tragedy, but we see this as a tragic pattern that we see often in families that deal with untreated severe mental illness. Like Ashlee's decision to cut off her family in 2021, to me, it wasn't made in a vacuum. It came at a critical moment when she was facing the potential loss of custody of her daughter. So what I would suggest is that when Ashlee was released from, I believe it was a psychiatric hospitalization, and she learned that her daughter's grandmother had begun that adoption proceedings, to me that triggered probably an extreme protective response. And potentially in her mind, due to the mental illness, she may have genuinely believed that she was perhaps rescuing her daughter or protecting her daughter. But from the outside, we can see this was actually isolating a vulnerable child from her support systems. So, Vinny, when it comes to me, for the progression, deterioration that we're seeing, the grandmother described the troubling behaviors, as you just reported from the beginning, even the unusual eye contact, the sense that something was off. And then now we're here in 2025, we're seeing the increased paranoid, the elaborate behaviors, the wigs, the switch plates, the locked doors with multiple locks. Those aren't the actions of someone in touch with reality, Vinny. That's what I would suggest.
And how does the protection go? Like, I understand that, right? You grab your child, I'm going to protect her, no one's going to take her away. But then she goes on this crazy trip, comes back apparently without her, and is saying nothing about it. To me, those two things don't add up to me.
That's where I would look at that we can't ignore Ashlee's own traumatic childhood, right? She experienced domestic violence, homelessness, instability, I believe. And, often parents who experience trauma as children, they develop hypervigilant, controlling behaviors with their own children. And that's what I mean when they're trying to prevent what happened to them potentially, but their methods can become harmful in themselves. So, isolation is often about control, but it's about can also be about fear, Vinny, right? When someone cuts off their entire support system, grandparents, aunts, the extended family, what we'll see is they're often operating potentially from a place of deep paranoia or distrust. So the question becomes, like, what was she afraid of? And if that was the case from her mental illness, what was the fear grounded in reality, or was it grounded in delusion?
Crystal, we have about 20 seconds left here. Currently, is she still isolating herself in her home? Is she not being very public? Is she kind of by herself, locked up behind that front door?
Yeah, actually, when she did return home after her court appearance Thursday morning, I did drop by. We did see her go home, and I've made some other drop-offs as well, but still no sight of her. She's definitely been laying low as she has another appearance tomorrow in Lompoc.
All right, Crystal Bermudez, great work as always. Thank you so much. Dr. Janie Lacey, great to have you with us. Is Melodee Buzzard alive? Is it possible there's someone somewhere in Utah or northern Arizona who is watching her, taking care of her, yet avoiding the public? If so, it's time for this to end. From the beginning, none of this has been in the best interest of Melodee. And I just hope and it's a big if she's alive, that someone steps forward and does the right thing. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.